Yeah, I saw those.
So Kill's been going up on the old farm.
Lance, did you hear anything from Troy?
I didn't. I just wondered if I saw it work.
He always, yeah, but he would normally text me.
That was on his grandfather's property, which before his father had a apartment. His grandfather ended up with close to 100 acres.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks for the lesson.
He sold the farm to his dad. Jim's grandfather did. Sold it to university. 55 acres.
I've got 7 o'clock, call the regular meeting, July 10th, planning and zoning. Need words, it's going to gear tonight. It's all right. Okay, we're calling the Town of Winchester Planning and Zoning Commission 10 July meeting to order. And I'm George Clausen, the chairman. Peter Marchand, John Cooney, Craig Sand is absent, excused. Willie Platt, Troy Lemire, who I've heard from. Charlene Lavoie is here, and Adam is here. Charlene, I'm gonna seat you again. You were here for the last, we have a public hearing continuation tonight, so I'd like to see you again for Craig's place. Public comment, is there anybody that has anything that they'd like to contribute to the meeting prior to any of the things that are on our agenda? If it's anything to do with the public hearing business, we'll do it under public hearing, if that's all right.
That's fine.
Yeah, because everything, well, since we've done that, everything should be included in that. Okay, I don't hear anybody or see.
Maybe I could ask one question.
Sure.
The Hinsdale School, it doesn't appear that they've completed all of the siding at the entry. I don't know if anybody
I'm not aware of that.
understands this.
I don't know.
I've seen it also, and when I'd asked them a month or two ago, there were supply chain issues, is the answer. Well, that was not what I got, but,
Yeah,
Well, that's something we ought to.
yeah.
good point, yeah. Okay, agenda review, is there, we've got, just to go over what we got here, we got a special permit, 3 special permits, public hearings tonight, and we've got a special permit for Wendy Scannion. She's not here, is that correct?
But that's just receiving her application tonight.
Yeah, well, so we'll handle that back then. All right, very good. So let's proceed. Anybody else have any comments about the agenda? No. All right, public hearings. PZC 23-74, special permit owner Henry Fracasso, applicant Lydia Michaels, 58 Holmes Drive. Proposal home occupation, special permit application in town single-family zoning district. Do you have when that was advertised?
Yep. Went out initially on June 30th, and then again on July 7th.
Okay, is the applicant here? Oh, here you are, okay. Come forward and describe what you're proposing, please.
Board, neighbors, hello. Yes, so we've submitted an application for home occupancy to use one of the bedrooms converted to a home office for a local trucking company. Uses will just be administrative, office use, receive calls, scheduling, storing documents and the like. Anything associated with actual trucking, storage of the trucks, maintenance, et cetera, is on a separate property and not associated with the home office use.
So you indicated none of that would be stored at the house?
Correct.
Okay. Sounds pretty simple.
Will it be open to the public?
I mean, technically, someone might come to schedule something, but that's not really general practice. Everything's usually done over the phone.
Okay. How many vehicles does he have?
He currently has 3 trucks, but again, not stored at the home.
Commissioners have any questions?
None?
All right, this is open for public hearing, so if anybody in the neighborhood has been advertised or anybody in town, any questions or comments with regards to the application?
Much appreciated.
Okay. Nobody in the audience have anything? Okay.
I'll make motion to close the public hearing, PCC 23-74.
I'll second.
Okay, any comments about the motion in a second? All in favor of closing? Okay, so we'll deal with that. Thank you. Okay, the next is PZC 23-10, special permit applicant Alan Borghese, owner ECAD, location 149 Newfield Road. Proposal modify location of proposed new building and wall sign application. We've had, this is a continuation of the public hearing, so we'll open that, reopen it. Is there anything that you need to add for this? You've got an application for, giving us permission for an extension.
Correct. Yeah, so they are not here tonight, but we'd like to come back on our July 24th meeting. But we did receive, just now from Kristen, some material that we helped her review. And she would like to present, if appropriate, in this format, slide format.
It's a video. It's
Video.
about 2 minutes long.
Okay. How are you doing that? Can you go through these screens?
Yeah, so I'll look at Lance, we just need to turn on the.
Oh, okay,
screen, I
all
guess.
right, fine.
So, George, and can I ask you something about this procedurally in the meantime? So I see that the new time frame for this commission to act is September 16th?
That's what Lance told me this afternoon. He got a request Saturday,
Right.
and actually, we should get a copy of that. Do you have a copy?
I do have it.
Okay. So why don't we read that into the
Okay.
minutes before you go forward with your,
So the old renew period was the 12th. The old time frame was July 12th.
That was from one of the emails I sent.
And now the new one is September 16th,
Okay.
in which the commission must act.
I'm sorry?
The old one was the 12th, and now the new one is the September 16th, in which the
Giving us
commission has to act.
Permission for 65 days,
Right.
yes.
I'm just making the public
Yep.
aware of that.
Yep, yep.
Am I doing Winchester guest Wi-Fi?
Yes, it's actually being shown here, so I'm not.
Lance, what was the date when he had till in August on the temporary seal?
August 21st, I
21st.
believe.
So
Yeah.
that's the 21st, okay.
Yeah.
I thought I had it written down, just double checking, so I'm aware.
Just, can you brief us on what is this all
It's
about?
up- it's up there.
Yeah, it's up there.
Yeah.
That's probably enough.
Works for me.
Now, you're just south of their entrance?
Correct,
You're the house that,
correct.
when we went up on site, I don't think it was occupied, so you purchased that?
I moved in March. I bought it in March, moved in beginning of April.
Okay, all right.
Could I read my
Go
statement
ahead, sure,
first?
absolutely.
I wrote it down because I had a feeling I might get a little flustered tonight, so I
No,
wrote it down.
you can be-
I'll try to read fast. My name is Dr. Chris Roberts. I live at 151 Newfield Road, just south of ECAD. My plan tonight had been to address this commission to discuss ECAD's lengthy list of 7-year-old non-compliance items such as privacy fence along the south side of their driveway, or the non-compliance regarding following their hours of operation. I've got videos from just this past Saturday and Sunday of cars coming in before 8 AM and leaving after 6 PM. However, I have a different video to share tonight. This video shows damage and destruction to my property due to the lack of not only proper drainage, but the apparent purposeful drainage pointed to my property. To set up this video, there's a small waterway running along the eastern border of my property, right near ECAD's driveway leading up to their training facility. It then curves westerly along the northern edge of my property, emptying into a culvert running parallel to my driveway, with the water then flowing under Newfield Road and emptying on the other side of the street into the east branch of the Naugatuck River. This waterway is usually only trickles, my tiny dog walks into it, usually inconsequential. I have a map, which you all have, that I got from the assessor's online database. It shows the orientation of my property against both parcels owned by ECAD. Any 10-year-old can see that the water flooding my property is not from my parcel, but drainage or lack thereof from ECAD. Due to the existent drainage, when it rains, it creates a deluge of water through that waterway, spilling out onto my 1/3 acre property, draining into my cellar, running through my septic, my leach fields, ultimately washing out my driveway. My 1/3 acre of property is taking the brunt of water runoff from 13+ acres of property owned by ECAD. Mr. Posey behind me has an extensive history of the drainage issue on the property. I can only attest to the damage that it's caused since I purchased my home in March of this year. I'm getting ready to invest $60,000 in a new driveway, drainage, and septic system. A drainage system which must be more extensive and expensive than would be reasonable for a property this size, because the drainage must be designed to control 13+ acres of ECAD's runoff, a cost that should never have been borne by the person who owns my property. ECAD's continued and total disregard for planning and zoning rules and regulations is beyond disgusting. As I noted in my presentation at the last P&Z meeting, I am all in favor of what ECAD does. My issue is the detrimental impact having this commercial facility in a rural residential area and what it's having on the surrounding property. Now, if ECAD was willing to address privacy issues, hours of operation, drainage, environmental concerns, such as properly disposing of how many gallons of canine waste a year, and the other items that P&Z lists, that would be cool. We'd all be happy. But in the few months I've lived here, I have seen zero effort on ECAD's part to address these issues, zero willingness to take responsibility for them, and zero willingness to remediate any of the damages they have caused this neighborhood. The only recourse I have as a property owner and a taxpayer is to beseech this commission to do something about this. No politics, no favors, no nepotism, simply follow the rules and do what is right. And with your permission, I'd like to play the video. I took this yesterday afternoon after the rain had stopped. This is the little waterway that goes up the side of my property, and at this juncture here, it turns left towards ECAD.
Is all that wood and so forth on your property still?
Yeah. And I wasn't comfortable going onto their property to get any other angle. Starts by ECAD driveway right in there. There's water. There's drainage from
This was an existing stream?
I wouldn't call it a stream, it's like a trickle.
It's where the water comes out of that whole.
Over a
wetland
period of
above.
years, it was intermittent.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's your driver river.
It's been an issue for years and years.
So that comes underneath his bridge, he's got on his property for the driveway.
That's my yard. That water is not from my yard.
No, I agree.
And Chris, this line you have on your property, this little line with the arrow, that's this waterway?
Yes,
Got it,
yes.
okay. And it's coming from, the way you've drawn it, it's coming from right down here, it's not coming from up in here, it's coming
kind
from.
of the water's coming
Yeah.
back kind of diagonally. When you go up ECAD's driveway
Yeah.
and it hooks to the right,
Yeah.
it's like at that
Okay,
hook.
at this hook.
Yeah,
Got it.
that hook, there's a 24-inch culvert that goes under the driveway.
Okay,
And all the water is diverted through that from up above.
all right, I get it.
You know, my question is, what did inland wetlands have on this application?
Great question. Of course, we didn't experience a rainstorm. just
No, I
recently,
understand, but it's been an intermittent, I know when we were up
We've
there.
had them for many years, and this
Yeah.
issue's been 7 years of the making. It's still
Can we,
continuous.
research that with the wetlands and what their determination and whether in fact, we can tell whether they did an adequate review, because this has already gone back through, when we did the previous approval, they had a lot of conditions.
Correct.
Is this, did this come before wetlands at all? Is there wetlands on that?
was.
They already rubber stamped it, yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's the question.
There's your
You got
risk.
something like this, that
Yep.
definitely, we got a lot of water in the last period of time, short period of time.
But it's happened from 1-inch rainstorms to 2-inch. I mean, yes, we had 5, 6 inches.
We need to
this
bring
time,
that
but-
into the record to find out what's going on, and maybe wetlands should be reevaluating this whole thing.
And I did take photos today of the debris in the road, your driveway washed out, and all the debris in the road, and sent it to all the members and to Lance. So we all have it.
Kristen, just south of your property, there's looks like an embankment that's cleared of trees, and it has some hay bales stacked
That's
up.
my drive, that's supposed to be my driveway. The hay bales were put there by, the fellow that's gonna be doing the work, to help with any runoff, because what was happening is, prior to me buying the house, that water would come down from ECAD, come around the corner, but instead of just going right into the culvert, there was such a quantity would like jump that culvert and go down the driveway instead of just down the culvert. So with the amount of rain that we had yesterday, it did both. But when we have, like Mr. Marchand said, like a couple of inches of rain, not a couple of, like an inch rain,
Inch or
small-
two.
just regular rain, it doesn't jump and go down the driveway, but it goes down the culvert. And the contractor is waiting for it to dry out so that he can replace my septic and do drainage in the driveway. But we still can't do it because there's just always water coming down there.
Those hay bales got washed out too.
Oh, yeah, and the USB stick that I gave Lance, there's several other videos, and one of them is the driveway this morning from the second floor of my house, and it's a waterfall. It's just a waterfall, you can hear the water rushing down the driveway. Any amount of dirt was washed out and it was left with stone. So I don't know if what happened, yesterday is gonna end up increasing my bill on getting that driveway, fixed. And again, the septic system in this property, is long overdue to be replaced, but I can't replace it until that water clears up, and it's just never going to clear up. And then my concern is that with all that water rushing down, my septic is right, my house is here, my septic is there, and then that culvert that goes down to the bottom of the driveway that goes across the street, my septic is there and my leach fields are there. So all that water is saturating my leach fields and my septic system too.
All right, well, thank you very much. Let's look into that link so that we can get a determination from
Thank you.
wetlands.
Just to get her above all the water.
All right, anybody else in the audience have anything? Yes.
Somewhere here, over here.
So if you've already presented something, we've got a record of that. If it's new, fine.
It's new, I guess, a couple questions for you guys. One, I was curious, Lance, did you get to submit to them the documentation and the question on the, sewage disposal from the animals?
No, so I did not, because I didn't get a chance to print it, to put it in their packet, and I was trying to research it, obviously, to follow up today so I could
Okay.
answer it, and I don't know the answer, unfortunately.
Jeff that was here at the last meeting contacted me shortly after the other meeting, and I believe Chris touched on it today. One thing we're overlooking too is, especially now you see which way the water goes. Based on the amount of dogs that are gonna be permitted for this property, the average calculation for the waste from a dog per day, we're gonna be pumping over 11,000 gallons a year of urine, feces off the floor, whatnot, into the leach fields of this residential or commercial septic system. I found some documentation online where most commercial kennels and all vets are not allowed to discharge any drainage from the kennel areas into a leach field because of neighboring wells, because of antibiotics, medications, the amount of urine, the amount of feces, parasites. They're normally have to put in large holding tanks, have that waste removed and disposed of either by incinerator or spread on large agricultural fields after it's treated. So I had submitted some documentation, maybe Lance can get it in the folder after. I think that's something we really need to look at, because my well is directly off this road, and Chris's well is probably, I wanna say maybe 40 feet, 30 feet from the road.
It shows the water running right near the well head.
Yes.
It goes around the well.
Yep, goes around the well head, I saw that in the
It
video.
goes right around the well, so anything coming off that property is going, even if the rains are flooding these leach fields out, it's going right around her well, right around my well.
It sounds like this,
There's
we're gonna get the information on
Yeah,
what.
there's a serious
what
problem.
wetlands do.
I've been before wetlands 4 times with this, and they just go, well, we've looked at the plans and everything's fine. I don't know that they've ever been up there. They just.
We're gonna ask the same
It's a minute
question.
and a half, we're approved and we're gone.
Well, if we're gonna be acting on this,
Addressing that.
we wanna have every bit of information, because there's a lot more going on up there than.
The second question I had, again, Lance, maybe this is geared toward you, I read through the minutes that you provided me today from the last meeting. One thing that was brought up at the meeting and by the commissioner was, the commissioners, was a cease and desist and restore on that parking lot. I had a conversation with Jeff Green earlier in the week. I spoke to him last week, he said he was working on it, I spoke to him this week, he said that he is not working on it, that you took it back because you wanted to handle it, because you had more experience. But we haven't had any enforcement on it. Do we actually plan on sticking this guy with enforcement?
Well, you're talking about the new parking area?
The parking area that we
Yep.
discussed last time and the time before.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that tonight, because we've gotta have documentation if in fact there was ever anything on an original plan. So we're gonna talk about it while we got this open, so you're aware of it, and it's a public record for the applicant as well. So I've asked Lance, in conversation this afternoon, to try to get that paperwork together so that we can evaluate it properly and see, what was approved, if anything. And if it was approved, did he perform it and construct it according to what the plan called for? So that's, you haven't had a chance, because we talked late.
Yeah, no, and I'm gonna give Jeff all the credit on this. He was the one who actually found it in the original files. So there were surveys that I've actually pulled out. The original one is dated 2000, wait a minute. Yeah, this one goes back to 2002. This one is from 2011, and then the most recent for approval in 2016. This is why I think when you were speaking with Michael Stankoff, our previous zoning enforcement officer, he wasn't sure exactly what was approved when the original design for the driveway was in. It does show on the survey that it was intended to be a well, I guess it was there at one point, a line of spruces and a retention wall. And I know the question came up, was there a driveway easement across 149? And there actually is. on
There
this
is an
plan.
easement to 149 and a half?
Yes.
Okay.
So that was able to make it. So the question now I would be, because you submitted the video to me a while back now and photos that Dale, Mr. Picard, had been out there working on it. So I don't know exactly if the retention wall was there, did it fail? And
So
now
so the retention wall you're showing and the spruces are directly on her property line with no setback?
correct.
Huh, because I've been there
On that plan,
over
it's
30
on there?
years and I've
Shows
never,
on-
never seen a retaining wall and spruces there.
I never have.
Well, it might be on the plan, but was it a proposed plan or was it
This was the
existing?
survey, so it should have been taken basically what was
Existing.
existing on the site.
What year?
This one is from 2002.
So, but does it show a parking lot with 15 to 20 spaces?
No.
And drainage and culverts and?
No.
Was there a permit pulled for
Well,
that when he rebuilt
I'm
that?
gonna guess no.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was obviously when it was all residential property.
Correct.
So, all right, so we've got that, we're gonna address, get that, since we've got the extension.
Okay, and then I guess last point of order, operating hours.
You brought that up before, and that's,
Okay, my question is, I spoke with Jeff Green again this week, and his advice to us was, said that he spoke to the police department, and he wants all of us to start bothering the police department every time there's a car before or after operating hours, so that they can send a cruiser up, so that they can document it, so that, but this has been going on for years with these complaints, so now we're gonna have to start taking town services and bothering these police officers
Well,
to drive up there.
we have to try to get this thing under control. And what they agreed to, and what we had for conditions of timing, they're obviously have not agreed, or not complied with that. So unfortunately, there's gonna be some pain and agony going over this, but we've gotta document it and get it taken care of. And if they don't comply with it, then there's gonna be steps we'll have to take, and it might be, a court proceeding, but.
I just hate to bother the,
No, I
Well,
understand.
Police department.
the issue you're gonna run into is by the time the police department is up there, they've already either gone or, so you're gonna have to videotape it. Police.
which I have several videos, but it's hard to document the time and date.
Well, that's, whoever's got documenting equipment, maybe there's one that has that will be available.
Okay.
Because just what he said, we've gone through noise complaints, and by the time the police get up there, there's no noise.
Correct. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else in the audience? Yes, sir.
That were approved.
Okay.
You look at the distance from here to there.
147 Newfield.
Yes.
1 inch is what,
So,
40 feet?
I wasn't able to make the last meeting. Mr. Borghese said he had spoke with me
That's the
several
scale.
times about me approving the.
Where they are now is
proposed building,
on the property
getting
line.
raised 15 feet. I had
These are
spoken
the
with him
2020
via
prints
email
right there.
one time, and he had showed me
No.
a row
And those are
of
the ones that
arborvitae's he
we
was
last
planting.
approved.
And I did not agree to him raising the building, so I just wanna
Okay.
nip that into bud, or I do not approve for that. And, one other thing was is.
Just, what he indicated was he was planning to raise it 10 feet,
10
not
feet.
15.
Okay, well, regardless.
No, I understand. Yeah.
And the other thing was outdoor training up there, every single day from 8 AM, 6:30, somebody's out there screaming all day long at the dogs. And I have an 11-month-old son, and my dog's gonna try to hang out on our patio, and I can't, because they're out there all day screaming at the dogs.
What's your address?
147, so I'm up above the house.
Up on the hill.
You're up on the hill?
Yeah.
Oh, you're up on the hill above.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're the new
Yes,
owner. Okay. Yeah, we've visited the site.
yes, yeah, and Lance has been up there, saw my.
So
view.
that's part of the reason for a proper buffer area, which has
Correct.
never been planted.
Correct.
And I talked to Lance, and I've asked the town to go ahead and document on the paperwork that's been presented, that's been approved, and what it shows, and make sure that in fact, because I'm hearing they're planting these plants 6 feet apart,
Right,
and they're spruce trees. I mean, I've got probably 18 of them in my yard, and they go to 85, 90 feet high.
right,
You can't put them 6 feet apart, you're gonna have it's gonna be a mess.
right.
So, I think they're 20 feet apart on the plan, but I asked the town to go ahead and do that documentation. And when they go out there, not listen to what's said, but what in fact is there.
Right.
And if it's not right, it's gotta be corrected by the 21st of April, or August.
Right.
But I appreciate you've got a beautiful place there.
Thank you.
And, it's, we're all
Other
dealing.
than the driveway.
I'm an excavation contractor, so.
Oh, you are,
Yeah.
all right. But, you know, it's
Just keep it plowed so we can get a fire truck
Yeah,
out there.
right.
Right.
Well, you know, just saying about like drainage wise.
Yeah.
My driveway is just as steep and as long as his.
Yeah.
Oh, that was
My
constructed,
driveway
it was
doesn't-
constructed properly with
exactly.
good
It doesn't
drainage and
flood
everything
the
else.
road.
That's never been a problem.
Yeah, exactly. That's all it's.
Well, thank you very
So
much.
I have one question.
Yes,
You say all day long they're out there screaming at the dogs. So
Yes.
you're saying they're out there training dogs
correct.
in the open, not in the buildings? Okay.
It's
And
not-
I sent
not
Lance a
what's been
video last
represented
week
to
of
us.
them on the 4th of July at 6:30. And I'm trying to enjoy my time outside with my family. And they're out there yelling at the dogs. So, and it says on the video that was 6:30 for the 4th of July.
But they do, that building is supposed to be a training facility inside.
It's supposed to be inside.
Okay.
My wife has videos, so
Okay, all right.
anytime you need another video, just let me know.
Well, Lance has that information. Do you have his contact?
Yes, I do.
Yep,
All right, thank you very much.
absolutely, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience have anything that they'd like to contribute to this that has not been said in the last couple of meetings? Okay, well, the commission, anything commissioners have to say?
I did go up there today,
You did?
and I counted, I think it was, I have it written down here. So, 34 to 36 8-foot sections of fence. So say, if we're gonna do one every 8 feet, you'd have about 35 trees. There's 25 mixed spruce and evergreens. A bunch of them were new, so we must have planted some new ones.
How far are they apart?
Well, on average, they'd be about, a little bit, about 10 feet.
Very tight for a tree like that.
Well, if you notice, there's 6 trees that were mature, so they've probably been there since, I don't know, you started this thing, but they must be dying off, because he's planting more and more trees. So, it wouldn't be too bad to have them dense now, right, and then thin them out later. At least you get coverage now while the trees are small.
Well, the problem is I can still see over.
Oh, absolutely.
trees from my
Yeah.
kitchen.
The 6 that were, I'm sorry.
Well, you got an elevation change.
Right, right.
One of the things that was brought up in the previous application that we did give a conditional approval for, 10 feet lower, gave you a whole different scenario.
The whole building was supposed to be there, everything.
But the other thing
That's what
that we
they're looking to
noticed
change.
when we were up there on your piece, by the previous owner, was the signage on the building. They never got a permit to do that, and there would be no need for it. You don't see it until you drive up his long driveway. That's part of the application. We don't normally deal with signage on a building. I mean, if it meets our code. But in this situation, because it's in this rural residential area, I mean, what's the purpose of this? So we're gonna talk about that too, but thank you. Anybody else in the audience have anything to add or ask? All right, the motion to,
I have one thing to say.
Yes.
I remember during the permitting process for the building, I had asked about the septic and the chemicals that would be used to sterilize and clean the dog kennels. And we were told that that septic system was only gonna be big enough for the office. And all that dog manure and all the chemicals, cleaning would all be trucked off-site. So, if that's the proposal, then they can't be, there's gonna be no forward drains, they said. I remember that, no forward drains. And the little bit of mopping would just go into a slop sink. But the septic system is only gonna be big enough for the office.
Well, do we know what's going on with the animal waste?
No.
Okay.
that's just one,
meeting where he talked about bagging the solids.
all right, that's just another issue that we've gotta verify when the owner gets here to participate. Any other comments from the commission? We need a motion to continue this public hearing to
I'll
the
make a motion to
24th.
continue the hearing to July 24th.
Okay, any comments, questions about the motion? All in favor? Okay. All right, so that's for now, we're not gonna make a decision on it, so you're welcome to
And you said continue till July?
24th, the next
24th,
meeting.
that's our
2
next
weeks.
meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. PZC 23-7, special permit, 30-day temporary earth excavation. Application and creation of Avery Farm, applicant owner Scott Bashan. Location 257-259 Torringford Street. Proposal request for removal of screened stone to create hay farm fields, Christmas tree farm, and fruit trees field. That as well has been advertised?
Yep, and the same dates. That was first sent out on June 30th, and then again on July 7th.
Okay, what, any other comments from anyone with regards to it? From town, from the town staff?
No, actually. I did not have a chance to ask town staff if they wanted to put review for, like fire marshal or anything. It's kind of an interesting scenario because there's no building for, a building official to review. There's no, technically there is a driveway, but the driveway doesn't really fall because it's off of the state road, so for Jim Rollins' comment really isn't necessary anyways. It's an interesting scenario that there probably wouldn't be anything from the fire department or the police department for them to comment as well.
You've got a history on this.
But there's a history.
See, we just got a,
And wetlands did give approval.
Wetlands did approve, okay, so originally, Mr. Bashan, back in January 26, 2016, had come before Inland Wetlands. The activity was to finish cutting trees, stump north side of logging road, strip screen, and replace some screen topsoil, seed, plant Christmas trees, complete work per, at the time, Ralph Stanton's submitted plan. There were conditions upon that approval, which was given back at the time. It wasn't earth excavation, it's strip screening, which was basically removing the soil, and Scott could probably give a better description of it, in the rock, so you could get basically some usable land for agricultural purposes, essentially. And the only recent application to inland wetlands was in regards to a pond that was created at the rear of the property, fencing that was requested up by the neighboring property, and remind me, what was the third thing? The building. Yeah, yes, so the cabin, shed, whatever you wanna call it, was built without any building permits, but that is actually in the process of getting resolved as well.
Were those conditions met?
No. So, let's
Wetlands
see.
conditions from March 20th haven't been met.
March 20th?
Or, I'm looking at the minutes here.
Oh, read it. What's the date?
No,
What's
So
the
I'm
this
date?
one
Excuse
was, the regular meeting was January 20th,
Okay.
2016.
Yeah, it was inland wetlands 23-3 was their application number.
so were those conditions met?
No, but I mean, I could read them all if you'd like to just put them in the
Please.
record. I don't really remember offhand, so let's say,
The conditions aren't in that,
well, no, they're here,
Document?
but
Yeah.
like, do I remember offhand? So it's best so we probably read them into the record. The permittee shall notify the inland wetlands enforcement officer immediately upon commencement of the work and upon its completion. Number two, if the authorized activity is not completed within 5 years of the issuance date of January 20th, 2016, said activity shall cease and is not previously revoked or specifically renewed or extended, this permit shall be null and void. Any request to renew or extend the expiration date of the permit should be filed in accordance to the inland wetlands regulations for the town of Winchester. Expired permits may not be renewed, and the Inland Wetlands Commission may require a new application for regulated activities. Number three, all work for the regulated activities conducted pursuant of this authorization shall be consistent with the terms and conditions of this permit. A copy of the permit and plans shall be on site at all times. All structures, excavation, fill, obstructions, encroachments, or regulated activities not specifically identified and authorized herein shall constitute a violation of this permit and may result in its modification, suspension, or revocation. This number 4, and this authorization is not transferable without written consent of the Inland Wetlands Commission. Number 5, in evaluating this application, the Inland Wetlands Commission has relied on information provided by the applicant. If such information is subsequently proved to be false, incomplete, or misleading, this permit may be modified, suspended, revoked, and the permittee may be subject to any other remedies or penalties provided by law. Number 6, the permittee shall employ best management practices consistent with the terms and conditions of this permit to control stormwater discharges and to prevent erosion, sedimentation, and otherwise prevent pollution of wetlands or watercourses. Permittee will provide a copy of the approved plans to contractor, which shall stay on site and be available for review or inspection during duration of work. For information and technical assistance, contact Wetlands Enforcement Officer. The permittee shall immediately inform Commission of any problems involving wetlands, watercourses that have developed in the in the course of or that are caused by the authorized work. Number 7, no equipment or material including without limitation, fill, construction materials, or debris shall be deposited, placed, or stored in any wetland or watercourse on or off site unless specifically authorized by this permit. Number 8, this permit is subject to and does not degrade any rights or powers of the town Winchester, conveys no property rights or exclusive privileges, and is subject to all private and public rights to all applicable federal, state, and local laws. In conducting and maintaining and any activities authorized herein, the permittee may not cause pollution, impairment, or destruction to the inland wetlands or watercourses of Winchester. Number 9, if the activity authorized in the inland wetlands permit also involves activity or a project that requires zoning or subdivision approval, special permit, variance, or special exception, no work pursuant to the wetlands permit may begin until such approval is obtained. 10, the permittee shall maintain sediment and erosion controls at the site in such operable conditions as to prevent the pollution of wetlands and watercourses. Said controls are to be inspected by the permittee for defectiveness at least once per week and immediately after rains. The permittee shall correct any deficiencies within 24 hours of said deficiency being found. The permittee shall maintain such control measures until all areas of disturbed soils at the site are stabilized. Number 11, the permittee, contractor, and/or owner shall conduct all operations at the site in full compliance with this permit to the extent provided by law, may be held liable for any violations in the term and conditions of this permit, and are responsible for any violation they may have created. Number 12, wetland flagging staying in place during the construction process. Missing flags to be replaced upon the wetlands agent's request, if required for inspection or enforcement. Number 13, cash erosion and sedimentation bond of $2,000 will be submitted to the Inland Wetlands Office. Number 14, crossings can be done on a timely approved by the Planning and Community Development Director. At the time was Steve Sedlowski. And that is it.
What's the date of that?
And that one again is on June 20th, 2016.
So, way back in the beginning of that list, Lance, you said something about if the conditions aren't met, and it's a 5-year permit. So is that permit already expired?
Essentially, yes.
I was told it was fine by your last wetlands guy due to COVID.
That is correct, actually. Because of COVID, the time frame on those permits were given a 10-year period for extension.
By the commission?
No,
By
state
By the
statute.
state.
By
and
the
it's all
state, okay. So 10 years from 2026.
Yep, so 2026.
But have the conditions been met?
Debatable, to be honest.
No, there's sedimentation and erosion controls in place
No,
and maintained?
Has there been an evaluation of whether those conditions have been met?
there was by Michael before he left, and I have been to there.
You can go up and look tomorrow.
I'm just asking whether the conditions listed in the approval have been evaluated to see if they've been met.
Correct, and the
Have
answer
they?
would be no, because we've talked, as you remember, that we talked about silt fencing.
What hasn't been met?
You had said you were gonna put, wood
No,
chips as a
wait,
measure
wait,
to
wait.
control.
This should be.
Well, there are wood
Wait,
chips there.
wait, this is not what I'm asking. I'm
Oh, okay.
asking whether this office has done an evaluation of those conditions. Who's
Yes.
supposed to do the evaluation of those conditions?
So it's,
Wetlands enforcement person.
it
Is
is
that-
on me,
Is that you?
yes.
You're the wetlands enforcement
At the time I
agent?
was,
Okay.
so the answer
So
is yes.
there's nothing, a document that evaluates those conditions and whether they've been met or not?
Correct. There is not. And the only one I would consider, if the activity authorized by the inland wetlands permit also involves activity or project that requires zoning of subdivision approval, special permit, variance, or special exception, no work pursuant to the wetlands permit may begin until such approval is obtained. And that's why we're here today.
I'm not in the wetlands.
Correct. We're just reviewing, this is what your original approval was back
In
in
the stripping
2016.
part, Lance, I
Well,
mean,
wait.
I don't know what else to call it,
George.
excavation.
George.
You have to dig the dirt to screen it to put it back.
Mr. Bashan, I wanted to get the documentation of what we had before we open this up for further discussion. So Charlene, have you got what you were asking for?
Yeah, that there isn't anything.
There hasn't been, all right.
Okay.
So before we open and go further, anybody else have anything, comments or questions?
Just with the wetlands, was there any to survey or any written plan of?
Yes. Yep.
And you have,
Of sedimentation controls and stuff?
And I think it's in your plan with just basically a highlight of the area for this 30-day period request. But that was submitted,
That's what I was looking for, I didn't see it, but.
should look like this. And it was,
That's the newest one.
of course, I don't have the whole.
Everything is green grass around the pond.
Okay, I see
This plan was done by Clark Land Surveying and submitted November 15th, 2022.
any other questions from the commissioners? Okay, so tonight, your application will open the public hearing. If you can describe what you're here to,
Well, I have that permit that Lance just read you to do exactly what we're doing on the left-hand side of the driveway, but I'm looking for an export. So that's where we're at. I already have the permit to do the work.
from the
I just don't
wetlands.
have an export.
Okay.
So the town is not happy with exporting soil without an export. He has the permit that we found in the computer, Lance didn't even know about it. And we presented that to the judge, and he asked us to come back to town hall and hash it out together. So that's what I'm doing here.
But you've got a document here about,
Well, wait, George, what permit is he now referring? That thing you just read?
Correct.
The wetlands approval?
Yep.
And conditions, okay.
Okay, but that's not an excavation permit?
No.
that's what he's here for now.
Yeah. Now, just a question on the sedimentation
What-
erosion on this map, does it show it in the wetlands area between the two ponds where the driveway is?
And what I'd like to do
The
is
two
ask. Mr.
dark black lines, I realize that's the driveway, I haven't driven up on the property, and,
Yeah.
but you're through wetlands here, were there any sedimentation erosion controls there?
That was all done when I purchased the property.
Right, but you still got trucks driving in and out many times a day in a gravel driveway.
It's
And when it
asphalt.
rains, you're gonna get sediment and erosion into the ponds and the wetlands.
It's asphalt.
All the way through that area? It's blacktop?
From the road all the way to the
It's
back.
blacktop.
5,000 feet
The
long.
whole
yes.
driveway is? Okay. I haven't been in it, so I don't know. That's why I'm asking the questions.
Do we
And I
have,
do have wood chips that I put around where elevations change. And no sediment goes in that pond. You can go up there right now. It stayed crystal clear all day.
Lance, why don't you, you've been up on the property, I have not been there.
Yep.
Would you describe what is the status of what the
Yeah.
application is?
So, basically, when you first go into the property, there's a field to the left, which Mr. Bashan is intended to be fruit tree. If I remember, there's fruit trees planted on that side.
The one out by the road, I wanted to do a farm stand.
No.
Then there's the pond, and then there's another field. That field has just been planted. And that was the other thing I was gonna ask. Every time I rototill a field to plant something, I need to put erosion control around it.
Only if it's within 100 feet of the wetlands.
Right, so it's not.
Essentially. Right. So that's not an issue. But that is in the same area that you're proposing the house. Kind of going up the hill on the left
Well,
hand
the
side.
house is way up on top.
Okay, so further past. My concern, and you know this, I've told you, is you have a low spot in the driveway when you get towards
On
the
the
middle
right-hand
of the
side.
property. Correct, where there's.
It's all grass now, so
flow.
there's no erosion.
I did see that, so thank you. There is a little bit of an area though from where the pond, where there's a collection of it's essentially a little pond on the left-hand side, drains through the driveway, and there is some potential for erosion going off the property on that site. And that is where I had mentioned you should either have self-fencing.
Nothing gets off my property.
I would like to go back, but there you should either have self-fencing, hay bales, or you had mentioned you were gonna do wood chips, and I said
Correct.
that would've been appropriate. In the meantime, you did hydro-seed it,
Correct.
and it has taken, at least the last time I saw, there was some seed, but it's some rough soil to work with, there's not.
It's all green. You can come up and look at
I would like to look again, so thank you.
it. Not a problem.
But I did witness a little bit of erosion going off the property, and again, it was after a heavy rainstorm, which is what wetlands wanted me to do. The pond, I agree, nothing's getting into the pond that you created. It was well done, I've documented that a few times. I don't think that's an issue that even really planning and zoning needs to consider. The building permit, like I said, we're getting into the correct, as long as you come before us with your house plans, the pole barn, the
The
building.
house plans are
existing.
here.
Okay, right, I remember you shared with Bill, so we just need the application. So for all those issues, I would say they have been essentially resolved. The biggest one is the earth excavation that's happened on the property for years without a permit. And there's been since, I'm
Well,
not
I
sure.
have the
what it was.
permit.
Well,
I just don't have the
Correct.
export.
You
So
can't
you
sell
keep
it.
saying I don't have a permit, and we went to court, and you said I didn't have one, but I produced one. So I
this-
have one.
this is not your earth excavation permit.
Well, that is stripping
Right,
the whole left-hand side of the driveway.
correct.
What would you call it?
You're taking product off the property and
Well,
selling.
how do you do it? You excavate it.
Lance,
One question.
That's all I can tell you, Lance.
and that's why you need this.
I'm not using a
What you
shovel.
have for removing the soil from the top of it, or whatever it was, what area, does it define what area? How many cubic yards?
No,
Nothing.
nothing was.
So
noted
it means
for-
nothing.
Right.
It means you can bulldoze it up and put it in a pile, and that's all you can do with it. Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
All right, do we have a plan that talks about quantities and where it's coming from?
No, and I kinda wanted to share this with Scott. This is really what you should be submitting. And I realize it's more than what you were expecting, but typically what would show is how much cubic feet you'd be taking out of the site, obviously where stockpiles would be located. So we don't have any of that on your plan.
Every excavation permit we have, it comes in with the survey of the property, it has all the elevations and so forth, what they exist prior to the cuts that would take place to get it out of there, and then what your expectation would be to have a finished product and how you would reestablish that. You've got a lot of work that's gone on for, how many years have you owned it?
Oh, a couple years now. I've been working on it for 5 years, 6 years.
So you just owned it for the last couple of years? Okay. So we don't have a plan that shows the quantities, where they'd be coming out, and what you're, talking to Lance, it sounds like you've got a beautiful pond that has worked out well, and, that you've created.
Well, everything that's got done so far has been put back and planted. It's either growing Christmas trees or it's growing hay. Now you want me to hire an engineer to do this and get another survey?
Everybody that we have had, based on our
And
regulations,
I'm in farming,
everybody that comes in and wants to do this.
not farmers, sir.
If the property is gonna be, your intention is to remove soil or stone or whatever you have on the property, and it's gonna go someplace else for some other project, you have to get a permit for this. That's the way our regulations are written. And we had public hearings and discussions before these things were put in place. That's why we have everybody that's done earth excavation. Mountaintop has done it, Gordon.
That's
Pepper.
excavation, sir. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing what Pierre's doing. I don't have a quarry. Mountaintop's got a quarry. Don't compare me to Mountaintop and Pierre, because that's not happening.
You're removing soil from the site.
Correct. We're screening rocks out, putting the topsoil back, planting grass, putting Christmas trees, fruit trees, and the rocks are going off-site. That's not quarrying. I don't have 200-foot hole, deep with no material to put back in the hole.
Each individual who has brought an application in, planning to remove material from the site that's gonna go off and be used somewhere else, brings in a plan that shows what it started with, what the expectation of removal is, and what the final project is gonna be. And then we work depending on the situation and what its boundary, people are.
Powell had to remove the sand and the
Yeah.
gravel from their
So
site.
it's not just
Across the
quarrying as far as rock and all that business, it's earth excavation to remove soil, to change the nature of the property, to change it to what you're trying to do with farming and so forth. So it's not trying to pick on you, it's part of what our regulations call for. And
Well, why did I get that permit?
that's a whole different agency,
So why don't I just run with that one?
because it doesn't cover the issue that you're trying to do as far as what.
It covers everything but trucking stuff off the site, is what you're telling me.
That's part of what our requirements are with our
Is it yes
regulations.
or no, sir? That permit I can run with if I don't export. I'm here for export.
Then we need a plan that shows what's being done to change the nature of the property.
Well, that's there on that permit. It tells you what I'm gonna do.
There's no quantity, there's no area, there's no A2
No
survey.
elevations, nothing.
Why didn't they require that at the?
I don't know, I don't sit with inland wetlands, sir. This is planning and zoning, and that's what our regulations call for. If you're not interested in doing it that way, then you don't even have to.
Farm
come into it.
regulations do not cover excavating and removing material.
What was that, sir?
Farm regulations do not cover excavating and removing material from your property.
Just the removing.
It doesn't cover removing,
Right.
And
That's
excavating.
all I'm here for.
but
Everything else he
you
has.
keep bringing up farm. Those regulations do not allow that.
Do you have that printed?
Yeah, it's in our regulations. Lance can give you a copy of it.
Yeah, I'd like that.
Page 122.
That's not what I read in the
Well, that's what-
490 Act.
And that's by state statute. So,
All right, anybody else on the commission have anything to say right now?
I have a
Well-
question.
Go ahead.
So, you've only owned the property since 2021. The wetlands application was in whose name?
Mine.
And you didn't own that. And it said that, so there had to be an owner listed, and he would be an applicant, there'd be an owner. And didn't you say that wetlands permit's non-transferable?
It never got transferred. I filled it out. It's not transferred. The gentleman I got the property from lives in Texas. I never met the guy.
He still owns it?
No, I own it.
Okay. So we need some more information is what we need.
Well, from what I understand from Lance, this September, I'll have farm status. So I can run under the farm status, creating new meadows. The only thing you're telling me I can't do is export.
No, or stockpile.
Whatever our
I
regulation.
mean, the reg says, look at reg M 8, which, the-
So that's under earth excavation, but I'm trying to figure out, I read the definition of farming, and what you eventually want to do is in the spirit of farming, but how to get there is
You
what
can't get there.
we're trying to question.
You
like.
can't get there. It's almost impossible here in town.
So,
I got turned down for my farm status because the girl in the assessor's office said I wasn't farming enough in her eyes.
so what I'm trying to figure out is how you plan to convert that property into, in the spirit of farming, right? So you're removing the soil, you are processing
Screening the
it,
soil.
screening it, right?
And putting it back and planting.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out, does that fall under earth excavation? And then if it
Well,
falls
I
under
have a
earth,
permit right there to do it.
That's wetlands.
that's wetlands, and I think it was,
they don't give excavation permits.
it was, what item was it, where is a stipulation regarding the other,
Well, why does it state on there I can do what I'm doing? And why did the judge not have a problem with it when we went to court last week and 2 weeks ago?
Are you looking for the
yeah,
wetlands permit?
I forget, it was, item,
Yeah, Lance has it. Where's the wetlands permit?
don't know if it's earth excavation or not, right, as defined, but on earth excavation, special permits required if stockpiling any more than 500 cubic yards.
Or
Special
removal?
permits required if you were going to necessary removal of excavation, filling, grading, stockpiling, screening materials in direct connection with the construction or alteration of a structure, septic system, driveway. I don't know, right? I'm wondering if it should have required a
I
special.
don't know, I got
for
this
excavation.
permit, I can't get this one. I've got permits to dig ponds, I've got permits to clean out ponds. It's a vicious circle. Lance was up not too long ago to inspect that we planted trees, now I guess I'm farming enough.
I can't answer for what happened in the assessment.
Well, I'm not stopping, sir,
That's fine.
I'm not stopping.
Okay, then we don't even need to continue with the,
No, the hearing, obviously you don't wanna
Well,
comply,
there
so
may be
you don't wanna
people
give
No,
us
sir,
information.
I wanna comply, but you can't comply.
You can, why can't we have an
Well, I
HOC?
have that permit, I can't use that permit?
Right.
Why?
It's not an
Because it doesn't,
excavation
it's not
permit.
from us, and it's not, does not meet
It
our
states
regulations.
on there that I can strip, screen, and put the dirt back. Clearly, Lance just read it.
I know, I thought this was an issue of you removing the earth from the property.
It says, the Inland Wetlands Commission voted to approve application, so it's inland wetlands. Item 9 says, if the activity authorized by the inland wetlands permit also involves activity or a project that requires zoning of subdivision approval, special permit, variance, or special exception, no work pursuant to the wetlands permit may begin until such approval is obtained. So just, it sounds like you have wetlands, you can go off, wetlands agree with what you're doing.
Correct.
Are we missing something from planning and zoning?
nothing's
Or-
come before planning and zoning.
but that's the point, and that's why he's
Okay.
here. Is we
Understood.
are responsible for evaluating applications to be able to remove material from a site and have those sites reestablished that they're gonna be safe facilities to be used for whatever the purpose has been determined. That's part of our regulations, and it's actually in 2016 it said that, but you didn't follow through with that to us, and you've been removing material off-site for years, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you continue to, because now there's a court application here to have you to pay for that, because you aren't complying with what the court, what you said you'd do with the court recently.
No, I did. I came in and applied for the for the
Your truck-
application.
They indicated that no more material until you had a permit from us should be permitted to leave the site.
Well, I guess we're gonna end up back in court, sir.
Okay, all right, so that,
That's all I can tell you. Lance neglected to tell the judge the day we were in court that I was gonna have to go through all this. He made it sound like we were leaving the courtroom, coming to the town hall, paying my fee, and receiving an application.
Which is what we did.
That's what it sounded like when you told the judge. So we can go back to court and you can tell the judge why we're here again and I can't get my permit because it didn't go the way you told him it was gonna go in court.
We're following state laws.
Well, that's fine, sir, but he should have acknowledged that in court.
I wasn't in court, but
He
I'm
should have
saying,
acknowledged that and said, hey,
We have
he's not gonna
regulations.
get his permit.
No, that's not what Lance, that's not what Lance told you, or the court apparently. You did apply for an application, but then.
The
you-
day
you-
we left the court.
Good, you applied, but then you have to comply with the
Well, he
procedure to.
he neglected to tell the court that, ma'am. That
The
it
court
would be
doesn't care
months.
the
It
court-
would be months before I got a permit. Him and the town's attorney made it sound like when I came back to this town hall, I was getting a permit, a special permit.
You mean without complying with the
Correct.
thing everybody else has to do?
Correct. Why didn't he tell the judge, oh, he has to go to public meeting, he has to go to public hearing? Why wasn't that all said in court?
The judge would have known that.
You think
You
so?
have to have a public hearing, correct?
you know
Yeah,
what?
I mean, this is,
Then sign me back up
Established
and
zoning.
we'll go back to court, Lance. It's fine with me.
okay.
That's the only place you get anything done. Apparently, he doesn't wanna side with you because he would have by now.
I think we're getting closer personally. You came
Well,
in, you
I'm
applied.
not getting another engineer and spending another $20,000. I just gave you another $7,000 on the back pond. I'm not doing it. You have plans, you have Class A surveys, you have another survey from Frank, you have that survey for the pond. I'm not doing it. I'm not spending another 20
But do you
grand.
understand what we're looking for the information that's not been supplied?
What are you looking for, Lance?
All the earth excavation material.
How much what area are you excavating?
Right, so I need an
Number one.
engineer to come in and
Number
tell you
two,
that.
how much material have
Right?
you
You're
taken
not gonna
off
take
site?
my word for it.
How much material has been removed from the site, number one? How much more are you gonna
Yeah,
remove from
but
the
do I need
site?
an engineer to do that? Or are you gonna let me do it?
Qualified
You wanna shoot
professional.
me, I could shoot topo? I don't know what to tell you.
You
So,
have-
right,
do you have-
qualified, so I have to
You
hire
have a
an
license,
engineer.
right, qualified professional.
So you
Right.
must
That's
have,
what's
you must have
required.
an estimate in your head, how many yards of material's left up there.
Excuse me?
You must have an estimate in your head.
Not at all, sir. I don't
Not at all.
recall.
So how, okay, then the question becomes in my mind, you're going for this permit, and if you don't know how much you're gonna take out of there, why bother?
Oh, I know how much they wanna take out.
You know, well, how much?
Probably around 10,000 yards.
Okay, see, that's what we're asking, how much are you gonna remove?
So you're looking at additional 10,000 yards to what you've
It's just
already
making
removed.
another field. That's all they're doing.
But I'm saying, you're looking at an additional 10,000 yards from today on to remove,
Correct.
not talking about what you previously, okay.
all right, there's procedures that are in our documents that are not lengthy. That's all we're asking for, is if you've got the application before us as special permit, we can continue the public hearing. And if you can provide us with documentation showing what amount you're gonna take out and where it's coming from and what the final project is gonna look like when you get finished, because you're trying to make it farmland. That's all we're asking for.
So why was this application submitted without that information?
We get applications that are incomplete. and
Okay.
It's up to us to stipulate that they're
And
incomplete.
we've got to August 25th for the 65 days.
Okay, and then explain to the applicant what's required,
Yes.
okay.
I mean, that should
So
go,
it's gonna require an engineer, is what I'm saying.
Yes,
Somebody's gotta sign
look
up.
at page 84 of the
come up with the
regs,
figures. of what
under
that's gonna
section
be.
M.
Right.
Lance will direct you to that. These are the regulations, and this is what the building officials or the officials are supposed to refer you to, so you know what's required of it when you submit an application. I mean, it's not, we're not asking anything of you that we don't ask of any applicant.
So if the export stops, I don't need to do any of this.
That's
just means you can't remove any more material.
Well, it does say stockpiling, filling, or removal of earth materials, so if he's gonna just dig it and stockpile, it's the same thing. Because the intent
It
of the
doesn't get stockpiled now.
the intent of the regulation is that the municipality be able to evaluate whether the earth is being appropriately, or if it's just being dug out to make a, I don't know, whatever, but, right? Isn't that the intent of the reg?
True, well, it's,
Is to-
because this is not Kansas, so we're not like flat ground all over the place, so we've got.
Right, we're taking the bumps out, we screen it, put the dirt back, and plant it. Lance has seen what we're doing.
It
But you're
doesn't, it
exporting.
doesn't absolve you of having to
Right.
follow the rules that
Right,
everybody
so-
else has to follow, which is written down, and it's pretty clear what you have to do.
It's not just to create difficulty for you as a property
Oh,
owner.
we're, you know,
It's,
that's,
it's trying to make sure that there's control, because if we didn't have any of this, as far as regulations go, then everybody that has property like you have can do anything they choose to do. And then whatever you're gonna wind up with is whatever you choose to have it wind up with, and nobody has any oversight. So that's what the reason for the regulations have been put in place, for that reason. Not to create, where it's gonna cost you a lot of money. If, you could be an engineer and own that property and do it yourself, if that was the case. You're not that person. Okay, and I couldn't do it myself either, because I'm not qualified for that. And we didn't put this stuff in there to be, in the regulations, to be just costly. It was just information that we need in order to make judgment about what's going on.
So what you're looking for is topo of the whole property.
Whatever you're pulling the material off of that area.
Right.
Because you've
So
got,
eventually, it's gonna be a farm, the whole 65 acres. Whether it's fruit trees, or hay, or Christmas trees.
and you're you're gonna build a home.
And my plans are downstairs, I just submitted those,
Okay.
for a house and a barn.
So
So you're looking at
the material.
another survey.
Well, excuse me for a second. The material you're looking to export, we use your terminology, export. What is it? Is it rocks?
It's
Is it
rock
gravel?
That is screened out of the dirt.
So
It's
it's
a
just-
glacier blanket,
So all you're looking to export is rocks.
correct.
You're not going to
They
be,
crush it and
taking-
take it off-site. And
Where
it's all
they-
going to the Torrington High School,
where are they crushing it on your,
right, on-site.
you have a crusher up there
I
now?
don't, they bring it. They do all the work.
But they bring it up onto your
But
site.
it's being
Yes.
processed on your site.
Yes.
And you can't provide us with the information about this part of your 65 acres?
Well, it would be the whole 65 acres again.
Not quite technically. The pond and everything behind it is not part
Well,
of
the
it.
mountain behind it's gonna get developed sooner or later.
You have to come in and apply for that.
So it's essentially, I would have to do the whole piece of property, topo, show you what's gonna get cut down, where it's gonna get stockpiled, it's gonna cost me $100,000. It's not happening.
Okay.
He has a full print of the property with topo on it. If we can't work off of that,
Who has that?
Lance has
Lance
one.
has it?
Usually,
The
you have a
town's
small
had
version
one.
of it, but yes, we have it
So
right here.
when you screen and you take the rocks out, how much are you changing the topography? Are you taking a 10-foot hill out, or are you taking,
I'd have to say we cut 6, 8 feet. You know, it was like this.
so that's, okay, so that's really not,
So we're just taking the highs off.
you're taking, and then what are you doing with them?
We screen it.
Yeah, but the highs aren't all rocks.
Oh, you should come up, sir. Come on up. You can come up and take a look any day. You can all come up. Yes, it is rocks. It's solid rock. There's 2 feet of rock. It's a glacier blanket. I think Mr. The engineer I used from Canaan stated it in his, it's a 2-foot glacier
Ralph
blanket
Stanton.
of rock. That's what we're cleaning up.
So
So you-
once you get below that, you got decent soil.
Once you
Oh,
get
some
below
subsoil,
that,
yeah.
you hit there's some topsoil, subsoil.
Good.
The subsoil is cleaner
Yeah,
than the top.
then the top is, it's good.
So you've got this topography that was done by Clark Land Surveying,
Yes, sir. That's the recent one.
And you can't have that evaluated and show this is what we're doing here and be able to use this map?
Well, that's up to you folks.
Just add to it.
Well, you'd have to add to it.
Have to add the,
Yeah, you'd have to add the
show
engineer
the
bill to it.
show the excavated areas, so. I assume where it shows the wetlands in farther where it's wooded, that's where you built your pond? In here? In this
Is
area
that the
somewhere?
back?
Yeah, towards the back, here.
Yeah.
In there. I assume that's where you built your pond in there. So, in this area here, like,
No, the pond's here.
oh, okay, you built the pond back there, okay.
The pond's there,
Yep,
and I don't even know how that got on there.
yeah. Just
So
wondered.
where are you looking to,
So we've done
well, no,
this area here.
right, but that's already done, just.
Yeah, this area here.
Yeah,
you
it's
can
all
see from the road.
seeded,
It's
it's
all-
all,
so
it's
that's-
all,
that's
there's
not what you're
Christmas
going for
trees
your-
growing here.
That's not what you're going for your export permit for. So
No,
what area-
I'm
what-
here for an export permit just to finish up what we're doing.
And where does that, where is that?
In here, right over here.
And that is like how much land?
Well, it's 1,000 feet wide. Probably 400 feet.
So this, okay, so you're looking like in here, you're gonna be taking that down.
Yeah.
And we're looking
Well,
at,
it's not getting, it's just getting scraped off and screened.
what, you,
You have topo in there.
so you're looking to go from 980 to 960. So that's 20 feet of, you're gonna be moving.
This hill stayed.
High Point.
Yeah, that's where I'm building
That's
my
where you're
house.
looking, the house up on the hill.
Yeah, the barn's going here. So after this dropped back down, we cleaned from here all the way back on the left-hand side of the driveway.
Yeah, see, 10 feet here, 950.
Yeah, and you go up to
940,
980 to
940
960.
back here,
taking-
930. Yeah.
Right.
So the topo is there.
But what you have to do is show us what the modifications are gonna be, and then that can be interpreted into how much volume.
Basically, you'd probably, I can't speak for the engineer, but you'd need like one more page showing the area excavating
And final, what
with
the
an
final
estimated
is gonna
quantity,
be.
yeah, and what the final grade would be. I mean,
Well,
in addition to what you already have.
so, listening to what his description is it, without doing, how does he determine the final grade? Because he doesn't quite know. I hear all kinds of different, I hear scraping, I hear
Well, I
30
don't
feet
know at
coming
this
off.
point how he would even give you a topo.
Right, so,
I mean, you could go off of that one and then he could shoot a new one, I guess, on the driveway. There's topo on there, and he'd have to
Right,
reshoot.
but
I assume somewhere here in the back where you've been working, you've got it to the grade you wanted at.
Yeah, the whole left,
Someplace-
everything's done.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I mean, you'd probably have to shoot that just to give us the
I
new.
have to put the
new topo.
topsoil back down on a piece
Yep, yep.
and seed
Seed
it.
it, yep.
Everything else is growing.
Good. I mean, I think that's, we can get those elevations with another map, they'll print to go with this.
So you want something to overlay that?
to work,
In
This
conjunction with
is
what's
your
there.
starting point.
Okay, so we take that map, you have the topo you need. I have the surveyor, engineer come up and reshoot those areas and present you with that map.
Not just reshot, but then the
Well-
description of what the activity is.
Well, that's
Right?
that's what he's talking about now.
Okay.
He's gonna take the rock out of here, so you get down to some soil you can
List the
use.
quantity, what's being removed,
Yeah.
and so we have that
and you'd have to show where material's gonna be stored
And then,
and processed
on the site.
on the site and all
So let
that.
me ask you guys, any engineer knows what is being required here, right?
typically,
Yeah.
Connecticut.
Right?
Most of them have been to us, I mean,
Yeah, okay.
well, we've had
So it's no mystery to
many
them.
excavation permits over the
Okay.
years.